please stand for an opening prayer and pledge of allegiance? Mr. Cameron.
Let's pray. Lord Father, we just thank you for this day. Thank you for this city, this community, and the people that make it up, Lord. I just pray, Lord, remember the family of Mr. Dykeman, who passed away this last week. Just be with his sister Carolyn, be with the family, and just thank you, Lord, for his service to this community. Be with us tonight, guide and direct us in all that we do and all that we say. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we forgot to go to red, so everybody hit red. Sorry, I felt Chris staring at me. All right. So we're going to start with a proclamation, and this is not going to be easy, but I'm going to try to make it through it. Carolyn, can I ask you to come up with me? So we are creating Council Member Dykeman Remembrance Day, and I'm going to read this because it's important. Whereas Jim Dykeman was elected as council member to serve Ward 4 on April 4th, 2017, and was subsequently re-elected on April 2nd, 2019, and April 6th, 2021, and whereas Councilmember Dykeman was a loving and dedicated husband to his wife Marcia, brother to Carolyn, and proud uncle of his nieces and nephews, and whereas Councilmember Dykeman was committed to the citizens and staff of the City of Republic, served as a term as Mayor Pro Tem, served on ad hoc committees, as well as conducting monthly oversight reviews of the city financials, and whereas Councilmember Dykeman passed away on May 28th, 2022, and will be missed by family, friends, citizens, and city staff, and whereas staff and citizens are grateful for the contributions and commitment demonstrated by Councilmember Dykeman during his time on council and as a citizen of the City of Republic. Now, therefore, I, Matt Russell, Mayor of the City of Republic in the state of Missouri, do hereby proclaim Tuesday, June 7th, 2022 as Councilmember Dykeman Remembrance Day. Amen?
So much.
You're very, very welcome. It's not enough.
I just want to thank the city for all they did and everybody that came to his service. It meant so much to me because he loved his job. He loved the city more than anything. And I appreciate all you guys did for him. It made his life a whole lot fuller, and he loved it. And I just can't thank you enough. Thank you. And I love the picture you gave me. I have a hanger in my living room wall, and he was just a great brother. But I just appreciate it so very much, and thank all of you for all you did for him. It was nice.
You're very welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
You know, a proclamation is not enough for what Jim Dykeman brought to our lives and to our city. He will be missed, and I appreciate you being here tonight. Moving on with our agenda, we're going to move on to citizen participation. Is there anyone here wishing to speak to something that is not on the agenda? Please approach the podium and you'll be given 3 minutes to speak. Please state your name and your address, please, ma'am.
I'm Arlene Manier, 124 East Brook Street, Republic. And first off, I want to say I've been very impressed the last 3 meetings that I've been in here. Before that, I hadn't been in a meeting since with old offices downtown years ago. So I've been very impressed with y'all. Anyway, my question is, are we back to 1 day a month for the city's yard waste disposal on West Street? And it was each week in May, and then they said it was ending at the end of May. It went back to once a month. And is that going to continue? If not, is there any possibility of increasing those? Because that's a bad need. I've got a load of pickup on my pickup right now of limbs and a ton to be loaded. And it was so rainy last week, I missed last Saturday, and I think it was the last time they said it would be open.
We can address that, ma'am.
Okay,
Mr. Nelson?
We opened it in May to try to, hit the spring season. I think it rained so much that people probably didn't get to utilize it as much as we want. So I think it's certainly something we can do, looking probably through June, just to get everybody a chance to get their brush and stuff in there.
Excellent. Will you be posting that on Facebook?
Yeah.
Posting it on Facebook?
Yeah, we'll take care of it.
Perfect, thank you. Any other citizens wishing to speak to something not on the agenda, please approach the podium, state your name and your address, sir.
I'm David Simmons at 2979 North York Avenue over in Brookline.
Welcome tonight, sir. What can we do for you, sir?
We have lost our 911 service. I live within 1,000 feet of Republic Station 2. I live within 3,000 feet of Brookline's main station. And from about the hours of 6:40 in the morning until after 9 p.m., I have absolutely no way to dial 911. We didn't have this problem 9 months ago, but in the last 9 months, we've added 1,000 or roughly 1,000 employees to a 1 square mile area. I've been on the phone with AT&T, and it's absolutely comical. I've got to complete 2 out of 7 conversations before the call is dropped. We've asked for the landlines to be repaired. AT&T has stated that they're beyond repair. That was over 8 years ago. We have no way to dial 911.
Okay.
The rest of the neighbors in the neighborhood have switched cell phone providers or found alternative internet.
Okay.
Is there any way that we can, I'm not asking the city to get into the private utility business. That's not why I'm here. I'm looking for a solution so that the 15 people in Brookline can go back to dialing 911. It does not affect the fire station. It does not affect Tim Farr's business or Spry's. Do you know why? They have digital hardlines. We have not been offered it.
Okay, I'm going to pause you there for a second because you've caught me flat-footed. I'm getting a lot of looks from out there in the crowd. Number one, I don't know anything about it, but I'll find out, okay? So that's the first answer.
That's a start.
And we will find out, but Chief?
Are you trying to dial from a hardwire phone or from a cell phone?
From a cellular phone, they will not offer us a hard line.
Okay. Our fire stations are not on hard lines.
The,
Fiber.
yes, buried fiber.
Right.
They will not offer that to us.
Mr. Simmons, what I'm going to tell you is I have no idea, but I'm going to find out and we'll get back to you. Is that a fair answer?
The solution to a problem starts somewhere.
Right.
And I've tried with AT&T and gotten absolutely nowhere in 9 months.
You and me
so
both.
now I'll drag a bunch of the neighbors and the city into it, and we'll see what we can come up with. That's all I ask.
We're going to look into it and we're going to have an answer before the end of the week for you. So even if we need more time, but you'll hear back from us.
I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
The man sitting right there is Andrew Nelson. You're going to want to give him your number. All right. Anyone else wishing to speak on anything not on the agenda tonight? Seeing nothing? Jared, are we missing Taco Tuesday right now?
I'm currently missing Taco Tuesday, yes.
This is frustrating to me.
Yeah, I'm not sure what time they shut down, but you never know when they'll be over there.
You guys saw this, right? Taco Tuesday at the Aquatic Center? So we are literally missing that right now. So we may
We
have
can
to
adjourn and we can
Yeah,
adjourn and
we
just go
may
back
have to
over.
move city council meeting.
I think we should have a
Mr.
city
Mayor.
council meeting there.
Can we just adjourn and just go?
Shh, don't make a motion like that. We actually have to entertain it if you make a motion. All right, moving on to the consent agenda, so maybe we can catch the end of Taco Tuesday. This is item number 2 on our agenda. I welcome any questions about any minutes, comments, anything like that. But if not, I need a motion and a second for the approval of the consent agenda.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 6-0. Upcoming boards, commissions, and committee schedule. Planning and zoning will meet June 13th, 2022. City council meeting will be June 21st, 2022. I've been told it's a doozy, so buckle in. Board of Adjustments meeting July 7th, 2022. And finally, planning and zoning meeting will be July 11th, 2022. Moving on to old business and tabled items. I need a motion and a second for the second reading of Bill 22-34 by title only, please.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 6-0. Madam Clerk.
An ordinance of the City Council approving the final plat of the Mason Ridge Phase 1 subdivision.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Haynes presented on this last time. Is there any updates from city?
No, Mayor.
Any questions or comments from council? Seeing none, I would now entertain a motion and a second for the final passage of Bill 22-34.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We will now take a roll call vote on our computers.
Where's your mouse?
Ordinance carries 6-0. I'm reading 2234. I'm just randomly reading numbers out loud. Moving on to new business so we can get away from these computers. I need a motion and a second for the first reading of Bill 22-35 by title only, please.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 6-0. Madam Clerk.
An ordinance of the City Council approving the final plat of the Old Savannah Phase 3B subdivision.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Haynes.
Thank you. Karen Haynes, Assistant Builds Administrator. The final plat of Old Savannah 3B will legally divide approximately 17.01 acres of land into 63 residential lots. The final plat does include the dedication of right-of-way and utility easements. The final plat includes approximately 3,880 linear feet of street and 6,215 linear feet of sidewalk. The final plat of Old Savannah 3B does conform with the preliminary plat first approved by council on July 20th of last year. The technical review team in the builds department has reviewed the final plat, and we do find it in conformance with the requirements. We are recommending approval.
Thank you, ma'am. Questions or comments from council? Seeing none, do we have any citizen comments? Seeing none, please remember this is a first read, so if you have any questions, get with staff before the next meeting. Moving on to item number 5 on the agenda. I need a motion and a second for the first reading of Bill 22-36 by title only, please.
Motion. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 6-0. Madam Clerk.
An ordinance of the City Council approving the first edition final plat of the Oakwood Heights subdivision.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Haynes.
Thank you. The final plat of Oakwood Heights First Edition will legally divide approximately 4.30 acres of land into 3 multifamily residential lots. It does include the dedication of right-of-way and utility easements. The final plat includes approximately 950 linear feet of street and 1,107 linear feet of sidewalks. The final plat is in conformance with the preliminary plat first approved by City Council back in August of 2020. The TRT in the Builds Department has reviewed the final plat, and we do find it in conformance with the requirements of the ordinance. We are recommending approval.
Thank you, ma'am. Questions from council? Seeing none, any citizen comment? Seeing none, please remember this is a first read, so if you have questions, get with staff. Moving on to number 6 on our agenda, I need a motion and a second for the first reading of Bill 22-37 by title only, please.
Motion. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 6-0. Madam Clerk.
An ordinance of the City Council amending Title I Government Code, Chapter 105, Elections, Article 105-2, Wards, Section 105.070, Ward Boundaries, establishing new boundaries for City Council wards based on the 2020 decennial census.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Haynes.
Thank you. The Republic City Charter requires the establishment by ordinance of the 4 City Council wards following each decennial census, which is every 10 years. The establishment of these wards does include the following language. Ward boundaries shall be established by ordinance following each decennial census. Wards shall comprise compact and contiguous territory and shall contain as nearly as possible an equal number of inhabitants. That's based off of the most current census. Redistricting is a process undertaken by local, state, and federal governments following the release of these censuses. The purpose of this redistricting is to ensure every individual's vote counts in accordance with the Federal Voting Right Act of 1965. This is a method to evenly distribute the district boundaries based on population and number of districts. The result of this decennial census did include an overall growth of approximately 27.1% between the years of 2010 and 2020 for the City of Republic. Again, the goals of the ward redistricting include a target population of approximately 4,600 and 87.5 for each ward, containing compact and contiguous territory within each ward. So the ward map that you see in front of you is the result of the analysis to get that distribution appropriately within each of the 4 districts. Staff is recommending approval of the updated ward boundaries.
Questions from council? Mr. Gerke.
So, I know we've annexed several, properties in, so the ones that we've done since 2020, the next census time, is that when they're added to that, or?
Correct. So on this particular map, the greenish yellow blocks, those are the actual areas that were recently annexed into the city, but were not annexed prior to the date of the actual census. So we won't collect that target population and redistribute until the next census.
Thanks.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Franklin.
So, Mr. Cameron, you had said earlier when we'd done the census that we would consider, or possibly consider again later on in the year, doing like an updated census.
So what you can do, I've done this before, when you have cities that are like growing at a rapid pace. I've actually done special censuses where you pay the census, you actually pay to do a special census because you get some government funding based upon the census data. So yeah, in 5 years, this census information will be, quite frankly, even 2 years after it's over, we've grown substantially even since that. So hiring and doing a special census of your community to outline it is worth the time and money and the effort to look at it in between, say 2030. And it won't have not near the scrutiny or the competition for other communities. So yeah, probably in 2025, with what we're seeing, with what we are seeing, I would suspect that we will actually do a special census just to reevaluate so that we're not waiting, because that map is going to change drastically.
And so when we do that, does that include redistricting after that as well?
You can. I think it just it's a legal question for that Megan, Ms. McCullough could look up for the next read. But I think it's definitely something that you would definitely want to redistrict along with each census change.
Just to keep everything.
Yeah,
equal.
because there's some charter amendments that we're talking about doing, so maybe we'll work with all of that, especially with the growth that we're experiencing, making sure that we have processes in place through the charter as well that would allow us to make those amendments. If the charter only allows us to do it by the census, what happens if you do a special census? So there's some cleanup that we're talking about doing with the charter to put to the vote of the people in April of next year. So that's something we'll evaluate between now and the second read for you, but it's a great question.
Sure, thank you. And so just looking at the map, all of our council members currently did fall within their respective wards.
Correct. And there's some statutory language too that even if that were not the case, a council member wouldn't effectively lose their position within that ward. Of course, then at the point of their term expiration, that would have to be addressed. But correct, we were very conscientious in looking at the distribution to make sure that would not be the case.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Seeing none, please remember this is a first read, so if you have any questions or comments, get with staff before the next meeting. Moving on to item number 7 on our agenda, I need a motion and a second for the first reading of Bill 22-38 by title only, please.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 6-0. Madam Clerk.
An ordinance of the City Council approving the execution of a developer agreement with Iron Grain District LLC and Majors Republic Number 3C LLC for development of the Iron Grain District.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Andrew Nelson, Builds Administrator. The Builds Department, the city's been working with the Majors Development Group for probably close to a year, I would say, maybe 18 months, on both the Iron Grain District and then their other development that's immediately across from Amazon near our the old Brookline City Hall. So we've negotiated a development agreement here. The city would install the public infrastructure, the public water infrastructure. There's about 2,200 linear feet of public main. The developer is paying for those materials, and we will install them.
Questions from council? It's a quiet group this evening. Is this similar to what we've done at other developer agreements?
It is. It's substantially the same agreement that we tend to use for these developments in public infrastructure.
Mr. Mayor,
Please.
I would suggest this is a it is the same, but it has more opportunity that as this development continues to evolve, there may be amendments to this development agreement considering the financial impact that it could have to the city's overall budget or additional revenues, that because we don't know at this stage exactly what's coming in, because there's a lot of unidentified potential that's on that site, but there is potential for additional restaurants, sales tax generation, things that do add, benefit to the community. And to help incentivize that discussion, we did say that there was potential, depending on what the future development looked like. As that site evolves, we've talked about hotels, we've talked about everything potentially, but until those things come to fruition, it's hard to develop a developer's agreement when you don't have specifics all on the front end. But having enough that they're going to engage in retail development already, we know that. We have left the door open for us for further discussion, because with the cost increasing in certain areas, we want to make sure that we're doing our best to partner with this developer. It has been going for about 18 months. It's a new addition. Mr. Majors and his development, they're been fantastic to work with. So I will tell you that you will see more of these where we're working with them as they go in progress. But as the retail component begins to evolve, we have demonstrated or communicated that we would continue to work with them on ways to minimize the impact of the overall cost of infrastructure, as we're seeing a benefit and a return to the citizens. So I appreciate the work and their patience with this, because this is something a little bit different, because we don't know what the final outcome will be.
While you talked, I came up with another question.
I have right ahead.
Yeah. So this isn't what I do for a living, but that looks like a pretty big project. Is that a pretty big project?
I would call it moderate.
You've become jaded, sir.
Amazon was a big project.
Amazon was big,
a big project. This is, I think probably, man, I don't want to curse myself, but like a couple of months probably. If I'm saying that, it'll rain every day.
Are you staffed up
Like it
for
is
this?
now.
I mean, this is.
Yes, we're to the point with the build site that this would be the next project that we take on, and then there's another development agreement that we have already directly to the west with the Hankins Group on that property. So schedule-wise, yeah, it lines up with where we're at. I mean,
Assuming the weather cooperates.
back to back to back to back. Yeah, so yeah, we're there.
All right. Any other questions from council? Seeing none, please remember this is a first read. Get with staff before the next meeting with any questions. Moving on to resolutions, this is item number 8 on the agenda, 22-R-27, a resolution of the City Council approving bill adjustments relating to sewer services provided between November 21st and March 2022. I need a motion and a second to take up resolution 22-R-27, please.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Good evening.
Good evening. Megan Cook, Finance Director. I come before you to provide a report demonstrating the utility billing accounts that were affected by a billing calculation error for sewer averaging for the months of November through March. That was missed during a transition of new staff and resulted in an overall sewer revenue loss of $147,000. We have put measures in place to prevent this in the future, and we can ensure no accounts were overbilled, and this only resulted in underbilling to citizens, and we are requesting that we don't go back out to the citizens to recapture this, and that we recommend approval for this.
Questions from council?
fund does that come out of?
The sewer fund, sorry.
The sewer fund. Oh, it's probably, okay. Does that affect it in any way?
The sewer fund is more robust, and so it can handle that. And if we need to adjust appropriately, we can reduce some capital expenditures in the future if we need to.
So it's not an insignificant amount of money.
Right.
We've taken steps to make sure this sort of thing will not happen again in the future.
Correct.
So what sorts of things have you instituted to make sure this isn't going to happen in the future?
Right. So effective immediately as soon as we came across this issue, we got all of our finance staff together in a room. We did some training. We got with our Tyler software system and ensured that they got proper training as well to ensure this, and then updated position manuals as needed.
Okay. Other questions? Are we sure no one was overbilled? No one got,
Yes.
did I get overbilled? Just
No.
check. No, all right. Just check. I
We
wanna make
actually
sure.
engaged KPM, our auditors, to assist in reviewing every account. The builds department and myself and my team also reviewed every account that was affected.
When KPM came in, were they concerned from an auditor point of view about any of the checks and balances? Was there any sort of like evil intent? Anything bad?
No.
Okay.
They could see that it was just oversight due to the staff transition, and we fully vetted everything out with them through the processes, our courses of action going forward. They just wanted us to, of course, and we too wanted to bring it before council so that we're transparent.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
So I want to clarify what this is. So what's a little bit atypical, it's not atypical everywhere, but we actually do billing adjustments where we do seasonal water and sewering, if you remember this. So at certain seasons where we actually you have a fixed rate during the winter, and during the summer you have a flat rate so that you're not paying sewer on watering your yard. Where what happened was in November, the software did not flip over to actual billing. It stayed on the flat summer averaging. So it really gave everyone a benefit as though it was assuming. So technically, I'm not going to blame the software, but because we'll never do that in the organization. But at the same time is all those things should be automatically adjusting by the date. It didn't, and it wasn't caught. And so it was just and I would say this, it was caught through a normal routine budget review in those discussions. So all the checks and balances for identifying where it would be showed up in that March 2022 financial review, but it was all over a failure to switch from average billing to actual billing. So that's why it was not someone just in there messing around. It's something that just didn't get flipped over on that. Where ideally, in the ideal situation, you would have everyone with irrigation meters and we just have the same billing year round. So I think us trying to be actually conducive to the needs of how it's done puts us in a vulnerable spot. So I appreciate the fact that they were, like we said, we're going to bring it, be transparent with it. I wish there was another way to do it with irrigation meters, but this is the system that we've chosen moving forward. But I appreciate the work and the vulnerability to take ownership for it and the work that you all have done since then.
Was there a discussion about sending out extra bills to people?
Never,
Okay.
because I don't think that I think that, no, I don't, I mean, that's just not how we function. We believe if we have the funding to do it, we can cut the cost and not impact the community. That's exactly, we never had a discussion, should we, but we also knew to do that means we had to come here and have that discussion in a public forum.
Fair enough. Any other questions from council? Seeing none, and as this is a resolution, we can move immediately to a vote. So I would call to vote the resolution to the city council approving billing adjustments relating to sewer services provided between November 2021 and March 2022. All those in favor of that adjustment, vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries 6-0. Moving on to reports from staff. Mr. Cameron.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to recognize the city administrator for the city of Stratford is here. Martha Smart, I appreciate you coming over, and I'm going to say I'm supremely impressed that you would take a night off to come watch another city council meeting. I would love to say someday you'll see me over at Stratford watching one, but I'm not sure that's going to happen. But I think you're doing a fantastic job in Stratford, and you got a lot of development going on. And so we get to visit quite frequently about the development going on in our community, and I love the fact that she solicits feedback and looks to learn and grow. So welcome to our council meeting. Justin Skiles, I want to thank you. I see you tonight. I know you wanted to be at the last meeting, but I just want to publicly thank all the people that are investing in our community. Justin, I know that the project out there off of Miller, this is your first time being in our community, and we met several months ago, and I remember our first encounter sitting there at breakfast, and you're like, I'm just not sure about it. I want to tell you that we will do our absolute best to help you to promote that development. I'm glad that we actually have a development agreement with Mr. Skiles on his development, and just we're looking forward to seeing that take place and take shape. So I'm glad to get through your final plating and see some houses going on out there. But again, thank you for taking that risk and that opportunity. We want to continue to partner with you in that. And then to Randy Majors, to him and Shannon Handworker, to my staff, all the team that have worked on this development agreement, Megan, for the work and the nausea that you have to go through to try to track us down to get to the terms. To Derek Lee, you've been fantastic on that development when it comes to just, there's MoDOT, there's the staff, there's a lot of pieces that go in there, and a lot of uncertainty with the market. But I'm glad to see people continuing to invest and do things to improve, because it's got to be a partnership between government and the private sector. I want to congratulate City Utilities. This is something that will probably not get much fanfare, but something that's really important for us, for those of us that geek out on infrastructure. They opened up their new substation out on the Brookline Park. For those that do not know, this is out there behind the McLean property. There was about a $10 million investment, and it shores up the infrastructure out there in the Brookline area, especially on the electrical utility. But that property used to be owned by the city. So the city sold that in 2015 for $188,000. I bet they'd sell it a little bit more today, but I think it was over 20-some acres at the time. But they've been a fantastic partner with the city. They allowed us to use that for the mud run. They've been very accommodating for the efforts. McLean has been very generous with the massive, that's a massive utility that's been out there. Jared's lost his parking for his event. And so, but I just want to congratulate CU for their investment into not only Republic, but this region. That's going to continue to operate for us in a capacity that will allow for us to continue to spur economic development in that area, and it'll shore it up even more. The RBI board, we are meeting tomorrow, I believe. Hopefully we'll have the bylaws adopted. I will tell you that we're through the Rural Broadband Initiative Board. We use acronyms too much. So that has got to the selection phase. We're down to 2, but technically the way the board is set up, the cities need to vote on the vendor, negotiate a price. And I think it was it 90 to 120 days, Martha, that they're saying that they're going to do? I'm going to put you on the spot. You're going to come over here, you're going to work. So I believe it's 90 to 120 days. So I think by the late fall, early winter, we'll have some numbers, hopefully before the next legislative session. I will tell you that we was in Jeff City last week. We continue to work on finding funding for the city on the wastewater treatment side. So hopefully we'll have an answer. I will say this right now, that in the House bill, the City of Republic was allocated $25 million. Obviously, it still has to go. It's on the governor's desk for signature, but that is the first step that we're working on. So once the signature is there, hopefully that'll be another $25 million allocated to our project. But we're not going to celebrate just yet until we see the signature. We appreciate all the work that has been done, and at an appropriate time, when it's all done, we will communicate that with the council. Talking about filling vacant seats, once we get the ward redistricting done, what I've instructed staff will advertise those seats. I do believe you'll have at least a consideration, the mayor obviously, and myself, or in that capacity interview, and then we'll present you consideration. I believe it'll be at the July 19th meeting. I think that's the schedule we had, that there would actually be consideration there, and possibly the next meeting the week following for potentially Ward 4. But and last, Carolyn, Jim was not only a great council member, he was a good friend. And so we had lunch every month, and so he was at my house many times, and we just talked life, and I knew his health struggle. But he loved the city. He loved the staff. He loved public safety. He went to bat for you all. He was a guy that was constantly working on the IT. IT was Jimmy's place. I mean, he always wanted to talk about IT, and he was very proud of bringing the Tyler software whenever we had to change that from that antiquated Summit system back in whatever it was. But he was always proud that he helped he got rid of Summit. That was That was his calling card. He loved his cat. He loved his sister. Loved his wife. Never seen a person stand by their spouse right up until Marcia passed away. And Jim,
He was amazing.
he was.
Amazing.
But he loved public service, and he loved this council. He loved being a part of it, and he will be greatly missed. He just loved the city, and that's what makes it special for me in my own capacity for our staff is people care, and I appreciate your all's service. But that guy, I mean, I'm telling you what, if he'd show up those lunches with a list sometimes. I'm like, is there anything else you got to do? And but he will be missed, and I appreciate his service as the mayor pro tem. I know he shook like a tree when he'd do it, and he tried to do his absolute best. But he was the first one here. I think every council meeting sort of walk in tonight to see that chair empty and not him have his spot. He will be missed, but I know where he's at, and I'm at peace with the fact that he's reunited with his wife, and I'm thankful for that. And so, again, if you need anything from us in this transition, you please let us know. With that, that's all I have.
He left everyone here.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Reports from council. Mr. Franklin?
No, I was just gonna let you know, I've been dreading this day since Jim passed. And he was my buddy. He was my buddy. He didn't know, but it's not easy for me to sit up here. I get a little nervous in front of the crowd. And so Jim was just my calming buddy that we would just talk. And he'd always help me, even though he had a little age on me, he would always help me with all my computer stuff. So I was like, I got here early today.
My little grandson is 14. Of course, my brother did everything from doing my watch to my computer to my phone. And my little grandson said last night, Mom, I guess I'm going to have to step up at Uncle Jimmy's place. I think I can do it. I said, well, I'm sure you can, but Jimmy he helped everybody. He was amazing.
Yeah, we're gonna miss him.
Mr. Franklin?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. And just in remembering Mr. Dykeman, it's one of my first experiences. I think it was back in 2017 when Jim first ran. We were at the senior center, and if you've ever been in the senior center and you don't know anybody and you're sitting there with a plate of food, it's kind of intimidating to figure out where to sit down. And Jim and Marcia couldn't have been nicer to offer a seat for me to sit down next to him. And from that point on, I always knew the kind-hearted person that Jim was. So I appreciate very much everything that Jim gave to us, and I also appreciate all the sacrifices that his family gave to us in giving Jim and his time to us as well. So thank you very much.
He did a lot of things with his wife, and then his health the last few months, I think I told David, he went to his heart doctor on Friday, and he said, I don't know why you're worried, you're fine, you're fine, we'll see you in July. 6 hours later, he was dead. It was tough.
Any other reports from council? Well, as mayor, I get to say the last thing, and that's part of the perks of the gig. And I've been thinking a lot about what I was going to say about Jim. And my very first night at city council, I sat down next to him, and he started just giving me hints. I know he was an IT guy, and I know he had a very, very long career in that. But to me, he was a teacher. To me, he taught me the ins and outs of how to do city.
He didn't rush you or make you feel stupid. I felt like I was a lot.
He was patient, and I'm going to take this opportunity to tell you about the last lesson he taught me. And that is when I got the message that he passed away, it made me realize how short life can be, and it made me realize how much we need to love the ones that are around us and care for them. And I honestly believe his last lesson to me, last opportunity to be a teacher, is tell me to be better, tell me to love harder. And I want to thank you, because he's not here to thank for that.
When the policeman came the night that he passed away, and they were shocked that it was Jim because they knew Jim, and they said, don't worry, we'll let everybody know. I thought, well, and I think they did, because a lot of people reached out.
Ma'am, thank you for being here tonight.
You're welcome. I appreciate David asking me. No, I appreciate that.
With that, we are going to go into executive session. No further action other than announcing adjournment by the mayor shall take place after an executive session that is scheduled as the last matter on the agenda unless otherwise stated on the agenda or as allowed per RSMO 610.02. We are going to be dealing with RSMO 610.02 1.1 pending and or potential litigation, closed session, closed vote, closed record. We will have a roll call vote for adjournment.
Aye.
Councilmember Gerke?
Aye.
Councilmember Updike?
Aye.
Councilmember Franklin?
Aye.
Councilmember Poole?